First impressions are the almost instant conclusions we draw when we see something for the first time. Research has shown that it takes a person less than 30 seconds to form an opinion, so those first few seconds are vital if you want to leave your audience with a positive opinion. There's an art to having a great first impression, especially in video games, because if you can't get your audience hooked in the first few minutes, then they might not see a reason to stick around. Especially since most platforms only allow you to return your game if you've played it for less than a couple hours, essentially giving developers a window of about 2 hours to convince players to keep playing, or they'll just get a refund and go play something else. So, what does make a good first impression in gaming? Well, in my opinion, you need 3 things. First, you'll want to introduce the character that we'll be playing as. If we're expected to spend the next few hours with this character, we should have a good idea of who they are and what their goals are. Grand Theft Auto 5, for example, does a really good job of this in their first mission where we're introduced to Franklin. Instead of getting a long cutscene or an exposition dump with his backstory, we start off with a typical day for him and his friend Lamar, boosting cars and trying to make some money. From this one mission, we learn more about his personality, get a snapshot of his life, and learn about his goals of trying to make something of himself. RPGs, on the other hand, take a different approach to achieve this goal. Since most of them allow the player to create their own character, it allows the player to have a more personal connection to them. The character you create in Skyrim, for example, isn't just any Dragonborn, it's the one that you created. Their personality is one that the player creates while playing the game based on the dialogue choices and how they handle certain situations. The second thing we need to build a good first impression is we need to be introduced to the world that we'll be in. We need to learn the basic idea of where we are, what the rules of this world are, and why we're here in the first place. Is this world similar to the real world, or one full of magic and wonder? Are we in the Wild West, or are we on an alien planet? Is the mood lighthearted, or is it dark and gritty? While this might seem like a lot to consider, we don't need to have everything revealed to us all at once. Take the game Portal, for example. We start off in a brightly lit room listening to upbeat music with a timer ticking down. We have no idea of where we are or why we're here, but there isn't a feeling of danger. We soon hear a voice letting us know that we're at a place called Aperture Laboratories and that we're part of a testing program. Then, once the timer hits 0, the first portal opens. Before we've even taken our first step, we know that we're at a testing facility and that we'll be expected to complete puzzles using these portals. And this first demonstration perfectly shows what using the portal mechanics will be like because we're able to see ourselves walk through the portal and end up on the other side of the room. While we still might have a lot of questions, the developers gave us enough information to understand what we need to do to keep moving forward. And the third thing we need to make a good first impression is we need a goal or an objective for the player to work towards. It could be to collect a powerful artifact, or defeat a deadly enemy, or something as simple as just survive. This doesn't need to be the character's ultimate goal, but we at least need something we can start working towards. Fallout New Vegas, for example, starts off by giving the player a very simple goal: find the guy who shot you in the head. And while we're following the breadcrumbs to find our assailant, we're slowly introduced to the characters, factions, and other stories taking place in the world that we find ourselves in. Finding the man who shot us isn't even the main story, but it is a perfect jumping off point to introduce us to this world and help us understand how we fit into all of it. Now, I'm not saying every single game needs to follow all these rules to make a good first impression. Developers can pick to follow 1 or 2, or choose not to follow any of these rules at all. But the fact remains that if they cannot make a good first impression for the players, there's a good chance most of them won't stick around for very long. So let's look at a game that makes a bad first impression: Skull and Bones. When you first start the game, you find yourself in an epic ship battle, which is honestly a pretty fun way to start things. After our ship sinks, we're rescued by some other pirates and given a small dinghy to take control of. Okay, so we got a taste of what a powerful pirate ship looks like, and now we have to start from scratch to get to that level of power again. Great, what's next? About a dozen fetch quests spanning over the next couple hours. Wait, what? I thought I was supposed to be a pirate. When did this become American Truck Simulator with boats? The game started off so well, and then it came to such a grinding halt after the prologue, and all sense of fun and adventure went out the window. Instead of doing fun pirate stuff, I was just delivering cargo from point A to point B. Even the ship battles got boring because I only needed to hit the enemy once or twice before I got the option to board the ship, aka the instant win button. The The funniest part about my entire experience was that Ubisoft let me play the first 8 hours completely free of charge, but I only played about 2 before I got so bored I just gave up. I was given no real goal to stride for outside of the vague notion of becoming a famous pirate. I had no reason to be doing all these fetch quests aside from getting more supplies to do more fetch quests. The world I found myself in was extremely boring because aside from a couple ports, I wasn't allowed to leave my ship and explore. It was all just the same ocean with different kinds of ships floating in it. My character was also a blank slate because nothing I said or did changed anything about the story. All the dialogue options were just different ways to accept doing the same quests I kept getting offered. If this was the first 2 hours of gameplay, why would I ever expect it to get any better in the other 6? And if I did buy it, I'd be at my 2-hour limit before I could no longer get a refund, and I really wasn't convinced I'd be getting my money's worth from what I played so far. See, as I've gotten older, I found myself with a lot less time to play video games. Between work, projects, and my personal life, the amount of time I've had has decreased significantly since when I was younger, but all that's really done is make me be more selective of which games I decide to play. If I'm only going to have a couple hours each night to play 1 or 2 games, then I want to make sure that the game is actually fun and not one I'm just grinding away at to reach imaginary numbers. It's why games need to leave such a strong first impression for not just myself, but the people they want to turn into fans. Most people don't want to waste their time playing a game that's not fun or engaging. It's why some games have such a massive drop off after the first week, while others can maintain a strong player base months after its initial release. It has nothing to do with the length or the price of the game, but rather if they can keep players engaged enough to keep coming back for more. It's why there should be more focus put on the first few hours of gameplay rather than all the endgame content, because if a game is boring, then players won't want to make it to the end of the game, let alone play anything after the story is finished. But what do you guys think? What makes a good first impression for you in a game? Do you believe it's more important to have a strong first impression, or should more of the development time be focused on late game content? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. See ya!